Hi everyone, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. So yeah, I think you can hear me and you can see my screen. So let's start with our 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 of you are still not here. It's okay. So mm, let's start with our class today lecture. Okay, so last week actually this one is 4.1 saving data. So last week actually we already see a few pages. However, for today, I'm going to recap a bit. So I'm going to start from the first slide again. So 4.1. For chapter 4, we have few parts. So this is the first part for chapter 4, saving data. So basically, this is where you are going to learn about the how you're going to keep the data or how you're going to connect data with your application. So this is the objective, okay? Saving key value pairs of a simple data type in a shared reference file. This is we already studied last week, last class. Saving arbitrary files in Android file system using DB managed by SQLite. This is what we are going to see today. View model repository, live data, routine, and explain app installation, locations, options. Okay, so this is the method under the saving data. We have share preference. It is private or public or how many file you want to share, data file and SQLite. SQLite is the DB, your memory. Yeah, the memory and the DB. Okay, so this is all last week. So shared preference. Okay, we can store primitive data type. So primitive data type, for example, here we have Boolean, float, integer, long, string, double. Okay, so that's the example of primitive data type. It means we can store, we can save this data type. So data will process across session even if an app is killed. What is killed? Last week I already explained. Kill, that's mean we terminate the application, the program, the activity. Okay, that's mean we can still save our data even we kill the application. Okay, so here shared preference, like I mentioned just now, we have two types, which is shared or shared preference or only get preference. Okay, there are difference between these two function, these two method. Okay, so last week the key, it's not key actually, it's like this is the term that I highlighted last week. Shared. Okay, so remember, this is all, so these two are shared preference. However, the difference is the number of file that we want to share. So get shared preference, that means more than one file. Okay, more than one file I want to share. And then the get preference is a single file, only one file. Okay, so this is the explanation from my point just now, shared preference and preference. Okay, so for shared preference, as you can see here, we have two different activity under the same context. Okay, activity 1 and activity 2. So just now I said shared preference, I share the file. Okay, activity 1. Okay, activity 1, I can go to these two file, share preference. For example, this one we can say as file. I can access, I can go to these two file. Same goes with activity 2. Same goes with activity 2 here. Okay, activity 2, I go to the first and the second share preference. Okay, so this one is for shared. And then for preference, like I said, single, one file. Okay, so one activity, okay, it is a separate activity here. Activity 1 only go to this file, and then activity 2 go this one file. Okay, shared preference, multiple file, preference, one file. Okay, so this is the method how to get shared preference. Okay, so this got access the shared preference file that identified by the resources. these resources and open it using private mode so the file accessible by only your application. And then when naming your shared preference, this is an easy way, stated here, easy way, okay? Use the prefix. The prefix here is referring to your app name or app ID. For example, my app name is my app, so I use the prefix name of my application. Same with this one, getting preference, okay? Just one shared preference, okay? I highlighted here, just one shared preference. One file only. Okay, I have some comment here, one preference updates to the list asynchronously, and then commit wrap the data synchronously. There's a different asynchronously and synchronously. Asynchronously, that means it is not concurrent. It's not in the same time. While commit that means I deploy to the data. It is in the same time. Okay, and then read from shared preference. Okay, retrieve or get from the shared preference. So to read value call methods such as here is three function, get, boolean, get integer, and get string. So we must provide a key to the value that we want. So here in line number 2, okay, value, default value resources get integer. I get integer, get integer. So this is the value inside. Okay, however, I need to point out, I need to state what's the key that I want. So here is my command. I need to have the key and the get integer. Sorry, the key is the get integer actually. Key is the get integer. So this is the question last week. I already explained. I already explained last week, already discussed. Okay, here, okay. So this is where we stopped last week. Okay, saving file. Okay, file where we are going to save our data. Okay, so a file APIs for reading and writing large amount of data. API, application programming interface. Application programming interface is used for communication between application. For example, I have two applications, application A and application B. Okay, so in order to make this application communicate between each other, they need a platform. So that's what we call API. API is like a platform for different application to communicate. But of course, for API, the setting is quite, I wouldn't say it's quite hard, but of course we need to do the setup for the API. Okay, so a file APIs for reading and writing large amount of data. Okay, reading and writing. So we can perform reading and writing. So if you're familiar with DB by write, if you're familiar, you can see the R and W. R and W or R and W. It can be R only, W only, or R and W. So R is reading, W is writing. R and W, that's mean you can read and you can write into that particular file. Okay, so it depends actually where we want to declare, when we want to declare that file to be read or to be write. Suitable for image file or anything exchanged over a network. The exact location of the where your files can be saved might be vary across devices. Of course, okay, it's not same between devices. It can be different. It might be different across devices. Okay. However, for saving file, we need to remember this is where we're going to write. We need to write first. Okay, write write and read. Okay, we write and we read, but like I said just now, we can do the setting where not all the user have the access to write. Sometimes they can only read. So for storage, okay, for storing data, we have two types. As you can see, we have internal and external storage. Okay. For internal and external storage, of course, there's a different. What is internal? Before I move with this, before I start with this patch, what is internal? What do you understand from internal storage? When we buy a when we buy our laptop, does it provide the internal storage or external storage? I'm not talking about the free gift. I'm talking about the machine. Do you think storage inside a phone? Yes. Yeah, internal. Internal, that means it's a built-in in our machine, in our mobile, right? In our device. So internal, it's any memory that built in our phone, in our device. So So characteristic for internal removable, no, because like I mentioned, the term that I used just now, built-in. So we cannot build in, we cannot remove our internal storage. That means it's inside our phone. And then external, yes, of course, we can remove. For example, what's the example of external? Mm, External storage for phone, usually micro, yes, correct. We have this external micro SD. That means you can take out that card. Usually for phone, they will have this, what do we call it? Slot, yeah, slot. They will provide a slot so you can insert this micro SD. That's what we call an external. That means it's not built in. Sometimes they will give us as a free gift, but yeah, we can get our own. And then availability, internal always. Why? Because like I mentioned, it is built in. Of course, it is always available. Okay. And then external, not always available. If you have that card, for example, just now, then you can read all the data. If not, then it won't be there. And then accessibility, internal. Your app, our application can get access to the internal storage, and external is what were readable. That means wherever you insert right, forgot, yeah, insert that, for example, the micro SD card is now, they can read the data. Okay. For application, for example, my learning application, okay, let's say I install in my phone, I will have the data in my phone. But when I delete uninstall, let's say I install my application, then all the data will be gone as well, because the data is bind to my application. Okay, so once I remove all the application, the data will be gone as well. Okay, so save a file on internal storage. So remember, internal storage is a built-in storage that provided in our device. So an app's internal storage directory is specified by the app's package name. That means once we download let's say I want to download one application. Once I download that application, the storage will come. The package for the storage will attach together within the download file. Okay, so not permission is required to perform read or write operation. Why we don't need any permission? Because here, stated here just now, okay, internal accessibility is your app. That means if that data is for your application, that means we don't need any read or write operation. Okay, we can get the data and we can key in any data. So we have two functions here to check the availability of our internal storage space to avoid I/O error. I/O is input output. Okay, so get free space or get total space. Is there any extension? Yeah, from this function, What do you think is the difference between get free and get total space? If you open your device, right, sometimes you can see these two things, but usually it will be in one data only. Get free space and get total space. Anyone can tell me what's the difference? Get total space. First, I'll go with get total space. Get total space is the total amount that we have in our storage. For example, I have 2 GB. For example, I have 2 GB for my storage. Okay, it will return the 2 GB. That's mean the total space that I have in my device. Get free space. The free space is like how, for example, I already use half of it. It's mean I already use 1 GB. I only have 1 GB left. Okay, so that's the difference. Get total space, it will return to you the total. Even the use space, they will return to you total space in your device. But for get free space, it's going to return the free space that available in your internal storage. Okay, so the keyword is the total there. Total space is the total space. The free space is the space left to be used. Okay, so create and write a file. So how to create a file? Okay, like I mentioned just now, before we read, of course, there need to be a file there. So before we read, we need to write. And of course, before we write, we need to create a file. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, this is the command. Okay, that's the flow. Okay, first we need to create a file. That's the basic. And then second, like I said, before we read, before we let the application to read from the data, we need to write. We need to key in. We need to, yeah, we need to key in. We need to key in the data into the file. Then only we can read whatever that I have in my file. So first here is create a new file. Okay, value file. This is where I create the file. Okay, file context, files dir, and then your file name. I need to create. So this is where I declare. I create and I declare the file's name. So this is the first instruction, the first command. Second is to write to a file. Okay, so buffer writer use out and write. So the file content. So this is the instruction to write to a file. Okay, and then next is retrieve whatever I already key in inside the file. I will read through this function. Okay, buffer reader, buffer writer for the write function and buffer reader to read the file. Okay, so that's the flow. First, you need to create. Second, you need to write, and then you need to read. Sometimes when you go to Google, because I Google things too. So when you go to Google, they will say read and write. Actually, you need to write first, and then you can only read. Okay. Next is external storage. So just now is internal. Internal is the built-in storage that provided within our application or our device. Here is external. That's when this one is like additional additional storage. It's like secondary storage, okay, to support our device or to support our application. Okay, here removable storage media, like I mentioned just now, it's like an additional. I think you guys are familiar with this. For laptop, for example, it's your pen drive or any external hard disk. Okay, removable storage media. But for application, for device, of course, for example, SD card. So it is removable storage media such as disk card or an internal non-removable storage. Okay, and then file saved to the external storage were readable. Okay, this one is like stated in patch 13, just now if I'm not mistaken, the difference. And then can be modified by the user, can become unavailable if the user unamount or remove the storage. It's like when you take out your card, when you take out your card from your slot, then the data won't be available to read. Okay, and it can be modified by the user. Okay, so request permission. This one is still under external storage. Okay, so here is under manifest file. So if you need to modify file in external storage, request write external storage instead. Okay, we need to step. Okay, here we need to ask for permission. We need to ask for, okay, we need to ask for permission. Okay, manifest, if you need to modify files and in external storage, you can request write external storage instead. So we need to ask for permission. Okay, and write name and then permission to read external storage. You need to declare this is the function, this is the access that you need. Now you want to read. So you need to step read, and then this is your external storage. Okay, the storage that you want to read. Okay, modify here is not necessary read. Modify, that's mean we can write, we can overwrite the data that we have in our storage file. So if you want to modify, maybe if you want to write, for example, here is read, you need to state what you want to do with the external storage. If you want to write, then you need to state you want to write over the external file, external storage. If you want to read, then make it as read. Okay, so here there's two types of file, public and private. Public and private here is referring to the accessibility. Okay, is it accessibility? That means who can access to the file. Is it open or is it only for private? So accessibility first. This one is the characteristic accessibility for public. The term that I used just now, it's open. That means all apps can access to that file. Okay, but for private, of course, we need to declare, we need to state, we need to define which app that can access to that file. For example, let's say I have file A. Okay, file A. If I state file A is public, that means all apps in my device can access to that file. But if it is a private file, that means maybe only my application A can go and read into that particular file. And then step after uninstallation of app. Uninstallation I mentioned just now. Okay, the data. The data, when we download, sometimes it will attach with the file. Okay, step after uninstallation of app. For public, that means the data will still be there. Okay, the data will still be there. But for private, it will, once we uninstall, once we uninstall the app, the data will be attached together, so it will be deleted as well. Okay, so file store in an app specific directory access using context. This one is the access key. Okay, to get or to declare which app can access to your file. So for public and private, actually, I think I can give one example. Once we, okay, let's say you go and download one application. You go and download one application. So after you download, sometimes the application asks for permission to access to your calendar, for example, calendar, contact list, what else? Camera, and few other files, okay? Because This is the public file. That means the application that I download just now they can access to this file. They can access to maybe my contact list, calendar, what else is now? Camera. Okay, they can access to this file, but of course we need to give them permission to. But this application, for example, is now the calendar, they cannot access to my file, the application that I downloaded. So verify external storage, the additional storage. Check if external storage is available to at least read. Yeah, so this is the accessibility. Like I mentioned, write and read, or maybe write and read together. Okay, so for external storage, here's that at least read. Okay, for the data. Okay, not necessarily we set them to be write and read. Sometimes we can only let the user to read. That means they cannot perform any action. That means they cannot override or write anything into the data. They can only read that file. Okay, so at least we let the user, we let the user to at least read the external storage. So readable. Okay, is external storage readable? So here is the function where we are going to check if our file is readable or not. And then here is the Boolean. That means they are going to return to you. Since this is Boolean, what do you think will be the return result? Boolean, we only have two values. So what do you think is the return result? Anyone? Stated there. Boolean, we only have two results. So for Boolean, what do you think will be the return result? True or false? Yeah, true or false, correct. So here, let's say, okay, is external storage readable Boolean? Let's say this is a command. Is external storage is readable. That means at least we can get access to read. If not, it will be useless. We cannot read, we cannot write. So what's the purpose? At least we need to read to that external storage. So here, as you can see, the Boolean, we only have two, true or false. So if they return true to you, that means the application can read the file. That means it is readable. And if it is false, that means it is not readable. Okay. And then get external storage stat. This is another function, the stat for the external storage, and then media mounted read only. Okay. So this is to check if we can at least read external storage. Just now is verify. External storage now is safe private file. Okay, private in the, I think, batch number 16, 17 just now. Private, we have two types, private and public. Okay, for public, the term that I use is open. All apps can go and read in the file, at least read. But for private, we have this restriction. That means only certain application can access to this file. So get private album storage directory. Okay, this one is the album name with the string data type. Okay, get the directory for the app's private picture directory. Okay, so this is the get external file, get external files directory. So this one is to save. Okay, file get external, not file. This one is for file. File name is the string. However, the file that we want to upload is not in the string data type. Yeah, the file that we want to upload is not in the string data type. It is an JPG or something, file or photo, image data type. Yes, photo or image data type. So here is the command where we are going to set to get the data, get external files directory. That means we want to read, sorry, we want to read from the external file. So if the file is not in their directory, not created, this one is the return result. If the file is not in the external directory, external storage. So other directories include directory music, pictures, ringtones, and etc. Yeah, like I mentioned just now, the file that we want to create and we want to get is not in string. It's in other data type. It's not data type. It's in other format. It's in other format. So this one is to save private file. Okay, this one is a storage guide. Type content other apps can access, file remove on app. Basically, this one is the data. It's like the accessibility with the data. Okay, so first, app specific file. Okay, specific file. It's like private because I mentioned private. That means only specific file can go to the only specific app can go to your file. So here the content app specific files. Files means for your apps use only. That means the other application cannot open that particular file. You must open that one file using your own application. For example, file. For example, uh, actually, I'm not sure if you notice, in your storage, sometimes based on the name, you know, this is the type of this file. That's when you need to open that particular, for example, one document. Yeah. Let's say I want to use, um, okay, I have one document in my apps, sorry, in my device, and it is in what type, for example. I cannot I cannot open that one document using other than PD, other than the Word application. That means I need to install or I need to have that Word reader to open that file. I cannot use PDF because it's not supported. That means this is app specific file. You need to have that one specific file, one specific app to open the file. So other apps can access? No, because it is specific. File remove on app uninstall. Okay, it is attached to your application. It is download together and attached in one file. That's mean once I remove or once I delete, uninstall, it will be attached together with the file, so it will be uninstalled as well. And then media, type media, shareable media files, image, audio, file, or video. Okay, so this one is just type. Yeah, media file, image, audio, files, or video. Other app can access? Yes, with permission. Okay, that's why just now I said sometimes when we want to install application, they will ask permission to access to your, here's static media, right? They will ask your permission to access your media, your image, your calendar. Okay, because they want to read that file. That's why they ask your permission. Or even sometimes they want to ask for your contact number in our device because sometimes they want to link with the contact that we have. Files removed on app uninstall? No, because this one is open. Open as in private. Okay, it's not attached together with our app. It's different with the first one here, app specific file. So let's say I uninstall, the data will be still in my phone. The data will be still in my device. Next is document. Next is document and other file. Other type of shareable content, including downloaded file. Okay, any file that I download in my phone, other apps can access. Yes, but this one actually with permission. Okay, with permission. Files remove on app uninstall. No, it will be there. And then app preference, key value pairs. For key value pairs, okay, for this one, sometimes it is specific. Okay, specific for our app because different app we have different preference. app preference. That's why sometimes some app cannot get access to this type of file, key value pairs. So they have the key value pairs for a specific app. So other apps can access? No. And then yes, this one we can relate with the first point here, app specific files, because key value pairs sometimes define or declare for a specific file, for a specific application. Okay, and then the last one is DB, the structured data. Okay, can other apps access? No. And file remove and install? Yes. Okay, so this is the storage guide. Sorry, so this is a storage guide for the external and internal storage. So here we have a question. This question is actually quite easy. The first one, among internal and external, which one is able to files that you want to allow user to access with a computer? This one I will so is Lim. Second is Daniel. Okay, I give you, I think, around 5 minutes, 6, 10 a.m. No, 10 a.m. 10, sorry, 9:50 a.m. 9:50 a.m. This one is quite easy. 9:50 a.m. and we will discuss this question. Other students, you may try to do this as well. So the first question, among internal and external storage. Okay, so basically when they have these two types of storage, internal and external, which one is suitable for files that you want to allow user to access with a computer? In other words, which one is removable? I remember in the slide just now. Uh, which one is removable between this internal and external? Why I use the term removable? Because we want to allow the user to access with a computer. Okay, that means it is removable. So all Android device offered built-in. Built-in is the built-in function, built-in in our device. Non-volatile memory that is non-removable but can be accessed with a computer. Is this part classified as an internal storage? This one is NL. Non-volatile. Non-volatile is, for example, ROM. That one is for computer. ROM is for computer. That means the data is still in there once we already turn off the power. Mm. Even is already here actually. Okay, limb and then okay. So the first question is Lim and Daniel. So yeah, 9:51 a.m. already. So first question, which one is suitable file between internal and external storage? Lame. You away from keyboard. Any other student want to try? First question, it's only internal or external. The answer is no, external. No, external. Oh, number one, external, Daniel. Oh, yeah. Number one is external. Why? Because yeah, the answer is here, removable. So it is external storage. Okay, so the first answer is external storage. And then second, is this part classified as internal storage? Yes or no? Number two. One can check what's your answer. You have answer yes. The yes with question mark, Ian. The answer is yes without the question mark. So it is yes because where's my slide? It is yes because for internal, I think you know, even though we already remove the power, the data will still be in there. That means they will save our data in our in the file. But can be accessed with input. Wait. My reason here is wrong. However, the answer is yes. That can be accessed as non-removable, but can be accessed with a computer. Is this part classified as internal storage? Yeah, the answer is yes, actually. I want to give reason here, but my reason is not really related with this question, but that's okay. Okay, so for the first one is the external storage, and then second is yes, consider as internal storage to build in memory or build in storage. Okay, so for built-in, remember, even though you don't have power, the data still saved as in the file. Okay, now let's move to the new part, SQL Lite. Before I start, what do you think SQL here? This one is one area. SQL is what? I never teach SQL. What is this SQL? What do you think? SQL is database. DB for mobile. Yes, correct, Ian. SQLite here is DB for mobile. DB for our application. So here, IoT. IoT, anyone know? I don't expect you to know this, any student. What is IoT? IoT embedded device. I want to ask, what is IoT stand for? Oh, you already have that. Yeah, Internet of Things. So IoT is Internet of Things. Okay, let me explain a bit IoT. IoT is Internet of Things. So basically, any things, THING, actually any things that deploy or embedded this Internet and DB function we call as IoT. For example, okay, we have this small vacuum robot. I do not know what's the specific name, but there's robot for vacuum. Okay, that is example of IoT. And there's one cartoon actually I watched. Big Hero 6, Baymax. Am I correct? Big Hero 6, Baymax. That is the application of IoT. Okay, the robot. Same with the vacuum just now. Okay, so that's the example of IoT. Anything that we apply internet and DB or anything that have this technology in that one particular things, we call it as IoT. This is my area of study too, IoT. And then we have embedded device. Embedded device, that's mean like I mentioned just now, we apply this internet or this DB into that device, okay? The BMX, okay, they have this DB, they have this internet connection. So that's why we call it as IoT. And then we have website. Website, I don't think you have to explain. Website is the website. So for SQLite, we have this file format. Okay, same with our DB for our application, for our software. We have file format. We have data type that we can accept as an input, and then the internal DB built into our device. So basically, SQLite is a DB for our device, for our application. Okay, so the first one here is data type. This now is the file format. Okay, I mentioned about data type. What data type we can accept as the input? Romba is what? So first is null. Null is, oh sorry, the first data type here is null. The value is a null value. Okay, null, that's mean empty. No, nothing. It's considered as a value in this SQLite. Next, we have integer. Integer is same. Same as in integer that we learned in programming. The value is assigned integer 1 to 3 or 8 bytes depending on the magnitude of the value. Next, I think this is the first time you see this term real and block. Real is the value of a floating point value. Okay, floating point value stored as an 8 byte. Floating point. Okay, it's not float, but it's called, we call it as real here. And then the text. Text is like string. Okay, however, we call it as text in this SQLite. So text, the value is a text string. And then the new one, the next one is blob. I think this is new to you. Blob is any data that the user key in. For example, here they key in or they drop this image or audio or any other media objects. Okay, that's what we call as blob, because data type this data type is not under any of this one here, this list in here. So any file that they drop or they key in is considered as block. The exact file or the exact data type that the user key in. No specific data type. Okay. So SQLite DB. SQLite can be So first, SQLite DB. So SQLite can be accessed using the room persistent library. Okay, we have this term here. So same with other, but this one is DB. So this DB, they have their own library. Okay, they have their own library. So there's 3 components under this room persistent library. The first one is the DB. Okay, access point to the DB. And then we have entity. I think you are familiar with entity. Entity here is the DB, the tab under our table entity. And then we have this one term, DAO, data access object. This is a method to access or to get access to our DB. So basically, this is our 3 component, the DB, entity, and the DAO. DAO is data access object. That means how we are going to access to our DB. So the first one, using the room. Okay. So dependencies for room should be included in build render file. Okay, room here is referring to this one just now that I mentioned, like a library. Okay, room persistence library. Yeah, dependencies for room should be declared under this file. Okay, room version is this one, 2.3.0. Okay, implementation and Rex room, runtime, and room version. So here, so here, the implementation, how we are going to use the room. First, we need to declare under this Grendel file. Okay, Grendel file, that means it's a file that's going to run or process the application. So here we have this version implementation. Under the implementation, we need to step the keyword here, room. Okay, and then we need to give the room version. So for Kotlin use cap instead of annotation processor. So this is for Kotlin language because Kotlin adapt Java. But for Kotlin, we have our own, it's not, we have our own. Kotlin, we are using Java. But Kotlin is like a better or improved version. So that's why sometimes in Kotlin, there's a difference with the Java for mobile app. So here, use cap instead of annotation processor. Okay, so this one is the compiler. Okay, annotation processor. This is the room compiler. And then next, Kotlin extension and curriculum support for room. Okay, this one is another function under Kotlin. Okay, to support this room. Room, this one is the one I mentioned. It's like a library. Okay, implementation, and this is the keyword, Android's room. And then to RX Java support for room implementation, this one. Actually, for room, you don't have to go for all of this. This one is only an example. You don't have to go for all of this. It's depend. For example, if you're using Kotlin, okay, so you can choose only one code or one command. This one is different actually. So this one, Guava support for room, including optional and list enable feature. This one is the different. The different is only at this one, the struct. It's not structure, instruction. For example, this one, okay. Oh, this one is annotation processor. This one should be here. The implementation here, for example, if you notice, we are using to use the room. Room, like I mentioned, room is like a library. Okay, so under this library, we have this instruction. So the difference is only at this. Okay, the KTX, the Java 2, and then the Guava. Guava is for any other feature. Okay, this one is the helper. Android's room testing. This one is the helper for the three implementation here. As you can see, the difference is only at this instruction, KTX, RX Java 2, and then the Guava. Okay, depends on the function that you want to use. That's why I said this now. You don't have to go for all of this. Depends on what you want to use. Okay, so dependencies for room should be included in this file. Okay, so that's how we are going to use room. It's like when we do our programming, we need to set which class, it's not class, yeah, which class that we want to use. So same with this one, we need to point, we need to set with which room, which library that we want to use and what function that we want to call from the room. So here is the room DB. Okay, like I mentioned, room is like okay, here's the explanation. Like I said, room is like the class. It's not a class. Library. It's not a class, a library. So room is like a library. So here we have this library for our DB. Okay, and then we have this DAO. DAO is stand for data access object. How we are going to get the DAO, how we are going to access into our DB. And then we have this entities. Entities is get or set field value. This one is under the field. Okay, so here we have on the top one here is the room DB. Room DB is where we are going to store all the data, where we are going to, if we have any data, how we are going to save the data. Or if there's any library, they will store in this DB. Okay, so the first one is the get DAO. DAO here is the data access object. I explain the function of DAO, as I already explained, the function of DAO is how we want to get or how the application want to access the data in our DB. Okay, so that's why you see this interaction from DAO here to the rest of app, and then from the app, they're going to the DB. Okay, so next we have DAO here, the DAO itself, get entities from the DB. Okay, get entities from the DB and then persist change back to the DB. That means I get and I send back all the change to the DB. Okay, and then the last one here is the lower level is entities. Entities, like I mentioned, I use the term table of field. Okay, so get or set the field value into the app. And then this app will send or access to the DB. Okay, so there's three level. Of course, it's like a container. The DB is like a container here because they're going to keep all of the data. They're going to get and they're going to return the data. So this is the first one, NTT. Before I move on, is there any question? Here we have, if not, can we have 10-minute breaks and we will 14 minutes this time, and then we're going to continue at 10:20 a.m.
Okay.
What is wrong? Oh, the machine. So, hi, let's proceed. Okay, so this is where we stop this now. So we are going to proceed with the next slide. Okay, the process or what's the flow. Okay, so here is the step one, the entity. What is entity? Entity is like the object. Entity can be, yeah, so entity here, for example, entity can be anything. Actually, entity and is that anything that exists in our DB. For example, it can be a person, it can be a place or any object. So here, the first step here is create an entity class for each table. That means we need to create an entity. So in this example, the entity that I've created is user. Like I said just now, entity can be a person, can be a place, can be an object. Okay, other example for entity is like staff, student, what else? Staff, student, school. Okay, so here my entity is the user. Okay, data class user. So entity, you can see here, we need to stat, we need to create the primary key. We need to stat what is our primary key. What is primary key? So I write what is primary key. What is primary key? Do you know what's primary key? You learn in DB. By right, you should learn it in DB. Primary key, foreign key. Anyone? What's primary key? Celine, what do you think? What's primary key? Celine, no, Ivan, Calvin Sharp. What is primary key? Primary key is like a unique key. Mm, yeah, unique key. So unique identifier for a record. For example, here in our slide here, unique key is the user ID. Why I say user ID? This one is UID, is user ID. So primary key is any unique key or unique identifier. That means that key is specific or unique for this one user. For example, I change this one to student. So my entity is student and the class is student. So for example, student ID. Yeah, student ID is the unique key for this class student because your student ID is different, not duplicate. There's no same student ID between two students. Okay, so it is a unique identifier. You need to start in here. And then the column info here is only the value, the first name and the last name. Okay, now nullable string, nullable attribute. This one is string because it's a name. Okay, so here the key here for entity is you need to create an entity. Entity is anything that exists in your DB. So if you have user, you need to create a class for user. If you have student just now, you need to create a class for student and you need to set what is the primary key or what we call as PK. PK is very important in DB because that is the identifier, unique identifier for our table or for a record. Okay, so here an entity with a composite primary key. So entity table names, the class just now, user. Okay, primary key array of first name and last name. Okay, this one is a composite with a primary key. That means we want to combine. So from the previous slide just now, we have this. No, user here is not the primary key. Unless stated user's primary key. Primary key, or the user is referring to the class. Primary key is the primary key that we have, and then this one is the info that we want to include. Okay, so this one is for the primary key. And then next we have this FK. Okay, foreign key between entities. We need to declare what is the foreign key. So for example, foreign key, array of foreign key, entity, which is the user. User is the entity and the class as well. So we have this parent column and child column. The parent column is ID and the child column is user ID. So here, I already mentioned about the PK. Now we have this FK. What is FK or foreign key? Foreign key is not something that unique. It is different with primary key. Primary key is something unique, unique identifier. For foreign key is what? What is foreign key? Foreign key is we use to what? Foreign key is you guys study DB? Yeah, key that is referred from other table or there's one more term, correct me, Noel. Key that is referred. I'm not sure if you list or key that use just now I mentioned about foreign key, right? As a primary key. Primary key is a unique value, unique identifier. Now we have this FK, foreign key. Foreign key here mentioned by Noel, key that is referred from other table. Okay, the key that we use from other table, or it is a key that we use to link the table. That means from one table to another table, we use to link the table. Okay, we cannot sorry, yeah, we need to have that key if we want to link or we want to point to other table. Okay, the keyword here is I think is link or from here is referred. Referred or link is the same in this context. Okay, so the entity here is my user. User is a class. And then the parent column is the ID. And then the child column is the user ID. Okay, so here array of foreign key. This one can be considered as FK CF, foreign key. Yeah, foreign key is any data that we use to link to other table. For example, I want to link two entities just now, student and here is user. User and maybe next is, maybe I have another class, admin. So I want to link this admin and the class, sorry, user, admin and the user table. So I need to have one key that can connect this admin and the user. So that key is what we call as the F key, which is foreign key. Okay, so for example here, I have this three line, right? The first one is the class is the user. And then the parent. Parent here is the ID. ID here is not something that is unique. That means we can consider this as FK. Okay, ID, not user ID. If stated as user ID, then we know this is a PK, our primary key. Yeah, primary key, the unique key. Okay, PK is unique. Foreign key is a link or a key that we use to link the table or the entity. Next here is in step 2, we have DAO. DAO stands for data access object. Okay, so data access object, the function of DAO again to access the DB. So here we have few query here. Okay, now, okay, step 2, create a DAO. DAO, the function is to access the DB. Okay, interface, user DAO. So here is the query. Okay, I think you know how to read this query. The first query here, query 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have okay. So the first 1, 2, 3. The first query here, first query, select all from user. Okay, so this is how I want to ask this now. What's the function, or what do you think will be the return result from this query? Select all. This is asterisk in query. That means we select. Sorry, this one is all. That means if we write something like this, select all from user, it will return. What do you think it will return from the first query? You guys study DB, right? This asterisk should be basic for us. Select all from user. It means it's going to return all the user that we have in our DB. Hey, you guys study DB already or haven't? Yeah. So at least I think you should know how to read this DB, this query. So actually from the answer here, get all list user. Like I said just now, select all from user. This query is to get all the list of user that we have under our DB. Second is select all from user where user ID, IN. I'm not sure what IN stand here. I don't think this is any specific. I think this one is referring to this particular DB. I'm not sure what is IN. However, select all from user where user ID is this one. This one is the data. That means they are going to return all the user with this user ID. Select all from user where user ID is this one. This one should be one of the data inside the table. Okay. And then select all from the user where first name like something. You need to state what is the name like, and then first and last name like. Okay. So they declare, it's not they declare, they specify what they want. So first name is what and second name, sorry, last name is what. Okay, from this query. Yeah, and then insert. This is insert. Fun insert all. Value argument user is user. Variable number of arguments. So this is the argument that they want to pass. Okay, this one is an insert function, and then the delete function. Delete user. Okay, delete user. So this one is to get. Basically, this one is to get. Okay, the first one here is for all record, sorry, all user, it's not record. Second, user with specific UID. Why I know user with specific UID? Because they spec where user ID is what. And then with specific actually this one I cannot really say specific because why I say I cannot really say specific because we have this query term like that means they have something like a range. That means if they fall under this range, then only they will return. It's not really specific. Third, the last one here, insert with argument. Argument is inside here, and then delete. Okay, so this is the second step. This is example to create the DAO, how we want to access to our DB. Okay, of course, we need to play with the query here. And then third is AppDB with abstract class. Class you already know. For example, we have user, right? Yeah, user abstract, user class. So app data with abstract class. Abstract is we can relate abstract with class or abstract with object. Okay, so create an AppDB abstract class. Okay, so the DB is user, sorry, the user class, the class is the user. Okay, we need to create an abstract class. So abstract class here, abstract class app DB with the room DB. Okay, so abstract class is like an object, it's like an class. So for abstract class, actually, we can do this inheritance. Inheritance is I can pass the value. Let's say this is my class, current class. This is my current class, which is user, which is the user. So I can inherit something to the abstract class. Okay, the room DB. Actually, I'm quite confused now, the terms user and the class, because yesterday I had one subject which the name of the class itself. So that's why I'm quite confused. The class here is the user. Okay, so the third step here is create an app DB abstract class. So we have 4 steps. The last one is instance. Okay, create a DB instance. So here value DB, room DB builder, application context, app DB class, and then this one is the instance, your DB name. Okay, so basically we have 4 steps. First, this now is entity. We need to create entity. So here in this example, the entity is the user. Second is create the DAO. How we are going to write a query to access to our DB, data access object. How we are going to access to our DB. Third, just now is we are going to create the app DB, the abstract, sorry, app DB abstract class. And then the last one here is the instance. Okay, create the instance of our DB. Next is using room. Room, if you remember, I mentioned room is like a library. Okay, so don't use room for DB access on the UI thread. Asynchronously run the query on a background thread. That's mean asynchronously. We cannot run, we cannot execute in the same time. So information about background thread will be covered in the next part of this chapter. So you may try to check out this link, GitHub link, example of how using room, DB inspector. Okay, inspector to check, to inspect, yeah, to check or to inspect the query and modify your app depth DB. Okay, so this one is the example of application to check your DB. So here I have this. I want to ask, what do you think? I just want to ask if you know how to read. What is the name of this DB that I have here? The DB should be the highest level. So what's the name of the DB here? Nathan, what do you think, Nathan? Daniel Wong, yeah, Wong. What do you think the name of this DB here? The name, how to check, yeah, how to check the name of the DB here is actually, usually we have DB, the DB name, the field name, the table name. Usually the basic one is we're going to check the DB name. So how to check the DB name I mentioned just now? Usually it will be on the highest level. So highest level here, what I mean is this one, contact DB. So this one is my DB. And then this is the field that I have inside this DB, the name and the font. This C Tan Ong is all the data. Sorry, it's all the record. Okay, just now, if you remember in step number 2, create DAO. We have a query. Select all from, just now, user. Select all from user. User class, user. Select all from user. Like I said, when we have this query, it's going to return all the record that I have in this DB. Okay. So here select all from user. So select all from contact. By right, they should return all the data. For example, I have 3 data in here, record. I have 3 record in here. They should return in here, left of that. Okay, so results are read only. This is because of the setting. The user can only see the record. They cannot write. Okay, so sorry, inspect, query, modify your app DB. Modify, that's mean we can add, we can edit, we can delete the function. Okay, however, in this example, okay, the user, we as the reader here, we can only read this DB. That's mean we are not allowed to modify any data. This is because the setting, by right, sorry, by right, we can perform any modification, but because the setting is read only, then in this example, we can only read this record. We cannot perform anything. This one is we set, actually, we can set our DB if we want to let the user to update or to delete. Okay, so from the previous example just now, we can only read. So here we have a question. I think this one should be our last page. So this one, Solomon is not here today. Where is him? Okay. Even question 1A. And then question in room, no M. Oh, question 1, entity. What is entity? Ivan. DAO. What is DAO? To access what? And room. What's the function of room? No else. So I give you around 5 to 6 minutes, and I will ask you around. If you have answer, you may raise your hand. Okay. I will ask around 10 point. Basically, the query actions in one single object. So here I receive 1B already. Explain the purpose of this DAO. DAO here is the answer by Ian. Basically, the query actions in one single object. That means what action we want to perform. Action, for example, here, sorry, query of action, for example, here, if we want to retrieve the data. You can hear, right? I didn't mute. Sorry. So yeah, so query action, for example, if you want to retrieve, you want to get the data, for example, is select. That means we want to get all the data. Select, delete, what else is now? Insert. Okay, that's the query action that we want to perform on one single object. Or here, query used to access the DB, sorry, the data in the DB, or how we want to access the data. Okay, so that's basically for DAO. Second is room. Room is like the library. Hmm. Room consists of DB, consists of entity, and consists of the DAO. Okay, the DB, the entity. For example, entity is the user, the class just now. And then DAO, how we are going to use this DAO. So what is entity, Ivan? Entity is like the what? All right, entities as like I want to add can be. Okay, so entity can be considered as an object that exists in the DB. Okay, like I said, it can be person, it can be group, it can be object. Okay, anything that exists in our DB, student, staff, admin, school, whatever it is. Okay, so basically this is the answer. Entity can be considered as an object. And then DAO, basically the query of action, what we want to perform in that single object. For example, we want to get all the data for that object. We need to perform a query. And then room consists of DB. It's like the library for all of this, okay? So that's the last batch and that's the last question for today. So before we dismiss, is there any question? We have class in the afternoon session.
No.
I want to ask you, will you come for lab or not?
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So if no question, I think we can stop now and I'm going to see you in 1 p.m. Okay, so thank you and bye-bye everyone. See you. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, everyone.